Me, Elena, never in a million years imagined that at 23 years old, I'd be walking through the front doors of an estate that looked like something straight out of Succession or a twisted fairy tale. I come from a family of hustlers in the South Bronx, New York, where the concept of personal space was a hilarious fantasy. We lived on top of each other, breathing the same air, sharing the same struggles. But before I tell you how a girl from the 6 train ended up sipping vintage wine in a library older than my country, if you love real stories that explore the boundaries of the heart, we need your support. Help us reach our goal of 5,000 subscribers. Subscribe right now and hit that notification bell. I'd love to know where you guys are watching from. Drop your city in the comments below. Back home, our apartment was a 2-bedroom walk-up in a brick building that always smelled faintly of boiled cabbage and floor wax. 6 of us lived there. The soundtrack of my life was the rattle of the elevated train, the reggaeton blasting from passing cars, and the sirens that sang us to sleep. I'd been scrubbing toilets and filing papers since I turned 18. My dad took off years ago, went to buy cigarettes and never came back. The oldest cliché in the book. My mom, with her severe arthritis and diabetes, couldn't stand on her feet for long shifts anymore. Every single dollar, every quarter I made, had a destination before it even hit my pocket. Con ed bill, rent, insulin, groceries. The opportunity came through Mrs. O'Malley, a sweet older lady I organized closets for on Tuesdays. She knew we were drowning in bills. "Elena, honey," she said one afternoon, handing me an iced tea. "I know a family up in Greenwich, Connecticut. They need someone specialized. Absolute discretion is key. It's not just housekeeping. It's caring for the owner's mother. She's frail. The pay is double what you're making now, but, well, they are particular people. It requires heart, not just elbow grease." I said yes before she finished the sentence. That extra money meant I wouldn't have to choose between paying the heating bill or buying my mom's meds. Maybe, just maybe, I could finally go back to community college to finish my nursing prerequisites. But when Mrs. O'Malley texted me the address, my stomach dropped. Greenwich. That's not just a town. It's a fortress of wealth. It's where hedge fund managers and CEOs go to hide from the world behind 10-foot hedges. Rich people always made me nervous. I had this irrational fear of breaking a vase that cost more than my entire existence, or using the wrong fork and getting that silent, pitying look that hurts worse than a slap. The first day was a trek. I took the subway during rush hour, squeezed between sweaty bodies, then transferred to Grand Central for the Metro North train. As the train moved north, the graffiti and concrete gave way to green trees and manicured lawns. When I finally got off at the station and took a cab to the address, the silence was the first thing that hit me. It was heavy. The houses weren't houses. They were compounds. Stone walls, wrought iron gates, security cameras blinking like mechanical eyes. I checked the address on my phone 3 times, convinced the GPS was pranking me. But no, the number on the limestone pillar matched. I pressed the intercom button, my fingers trembling. "Yes?" A male voice. Deep, clipped, impatient. "Good morning. I'm Elena. I'm here for the position Mrs. O'Malley sent me." The massive iron gates swung open with a smooth, expensive hum, revealing a cobblestone driveway longer than my entire city block. My jaw practically hit the pavement. The main house was a colonial revival mansion, sprawling and white with black shutters. It was obscene. I'd seen places like this on architectural shows, but standing there, smelling the fresh-cut grass and hearing the gentle splash of a fountain somewhere, felt like stepping onto an alien planet. How many people lived here? A platoon? The front door, solid mahogany, probably weighed a ton, opened before I could even find the doorbell. A man filled the frame. He was tall, with broad shoulders that strained against a crisp white dress shirt. He had dark hair, just starting to gray at the temples, and wearing charcoal slacks that looked tailored to the millimeter. It was Saturday, yet he looked like he was ready for a board meeting. He looked to be in his mid-30s. His posture was rigid, like he was bracing for a blow, but his face wasn't angry. It was just exhausted, deeply, spiritually tired. "Elena, I'm Julian," he said, extending a hand. When I shook it, the contrast between us felt violent. My hand was rough from bleach and scrubbing pads. His was smooth, cool, the hand of someone who signs mergers, not someone who scrubs grout. Mrs. O'Malley spoke highly of you. Please, come in. If the outside was intimidating, the inside stole the breath from my lungs. The foyer had a double-height ceiling with a crystal chandelier that caught the morning light and scattered rainbows everywhere. A grand staircase curved upward like something out of Titanic. Massive abstract paintings hung on the walls, splashes of red and blue that probably cost more than my entire neighborhood. I tried to keep my mouth shut, but I felt like an ant in a cathedral. The house is large, I know, Julian said, catching me staring. There was a shift in his tone. Not arrogance. Was it embarrassment? It was my father's pride and joy. Honestly, it's a mausoleum for my mother and me now, but she refuses to leave. Her memories are trapped in these walls. It's breathtaking, sir, I managed to whisper. My voice sounded tiny, swallowed by the acoustics of the hall. Let me show you. He walked, and I followed, trying to make sure my worn-out sneakers didn't squeak on the polished hardwood floors. 3 floors, 8 bedrooms, 7 baths, formal living, room, dining for 20, library, home office, gym, and the pool house out back. He rattled it off like a grocery list he hated. But your world will be the ground floor suite. We moved my mother down here so she doesn't have to deal with the stairs. We dropped my bag in a small service room and went to the main ground floor suite. It was a sun-drenched room with French doors opening to a rose garden. In the center of a massive 4-poster bed, propped up by a mountain of pillows, lay a woman with hair like spun silver. She had an oxygen tube, but her blue eyes were sharp, scanning me with a mix of curiosity and mischief. Mother, this is Elena. She's here to help. Well, finally, some fresh energy, said Mrs. Evelyn, her voice raspy but spirited. Come closer, dear. I don't bite, despite what my son might tell you. I stepped forward, clutching my backpack straps. Nice to meet you, Mrs. Evelyn. Call me Evelyn. Mrs. Evelyn makes me feel like I'm sitting on a charity board I don't want to be on. Her dry humor instantly loosened the knot in my chest. Forget the millions, the marble, the zip code. This was just a sick grandmother and a son who was terrified of losing her. I'll take good care of you, I promise, I said, and I meant it. Julian explained the drill. Meds schedule, nebulizer treatments, helping her bathe, preparing low-sodium meals. Then he showed me the rest of the beast I had to clean. I know it's a lot, he said, loosening his tie as we finished the tour in the kitchen, which was the size of a restaurant. I don't expect you to scrub every corner every day. The priority is my mother, her comfort. The rest, just keep the dust bunnies from taking over. I can handle it, Mr. Julian. Don't worry, I lied. Internally, I was screaming. How do you dust a library with ladders? Julian stopped and looked me dead in the eye. Elena, Mrs. O'Malley said you're honest, hardworking, and kind. That's all I care about. I don't need perfection. I need peace of mind. I need to know my mother is safe, because she's all I have left. That crack in his armor floored me. Here was the master of the universe, the finance guy, admitting he was scared. I'll care for her like she's my own mom, sir. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. It was the first time he looked like a real person. Thank you. That means more than you know. The routine of silence. I started the next day. My alarm screamed at 4:30 a.m. Subway, train, cab. I walked through the door at 7 a.m. sharp. Julian was already in his office, surrounded by monitors, barking into a headset about shorting stocks and Asian markets. I learned he ran a boutique investment firm. He worked from home to be near Evelyn, but the irony was, he barely saw her. My routine was brutal but rewarding. Evelyn was a firecracker. While I bathed her or fed her soup, she told me stories about Julian as a boy, about how her late husband built their fortune from scratch. He was a bricklayer who started a construction empire. They started out just like my family. Julian has forgotten the struggle, she told me one rainy Tuesday. He thinks value is found in spreadsheets. He's become a sad man, Elena. I cleaned, cooked, and organized. The mansion was still intimidating, but what struck me most wasn't the square footage. It was the emptiness. It was a silent house. Julian lived like a monk. He ate protein bars at his desk, No friends came over. No music played. No laughter. We were 3 castaways on an island of luxury. "Elena," Evelyn said one day while I brushed her hair, "you've brought life into this tomb. My son needs that. He needs someone to remind him there's a world outside the S&P 500. Evelyn, I'm just doing my job. You care. That's different." She squeezed my hand. "And this house doesn't need lemon pledge. It needs love." I didn't fully get it until weeks passed. I saw Julian working until 2 a.m. I saw the dark circles under his eyes. His loneliness was so thick, you could choke on it. One afternoon, during a massive thunderstorm that shook the windows, Evelyn had an episode. Her chest seized up. She couldn't catch her breath. The panic was immediate. Julian was on a Zoom call. I ran to his office and didn't bother knocking. "Sir, your mother." He threw his headset across the room and sprinted after me. We worked together, me adjusting the oxygen flow, him holding her hand and talking her down. When her breathing stabilized and she drifted into a restless sleep, Julian collapsed onto the floor in the hallway, leaning against the wall, face in his hands. "I don't know what I'd do without you," he whispered. "Before you came, the panic, it was paralyzing." "You aren't alone now," I said softly. Without thinking, I put a hand on his shoulder. He looked up. His dark eyes locked onto mine. There was a silence, but not the heavy, empty kind. This was charged, electric. "Thank you, Elena. Truly." From that day on, the invisible walls began to crumble. Julian started leaving his cave. He'd wander into the kitchen while I was cooking. "Is that sancocho?" he asked one day, sniffing the air. "Yes, sir. Dominican stew. My abuela's recipe. Want a bowl?" He sat at the kitchen island, something he never did. He usually ate in the formal dining room or his office. As he ate, we talked. Not about meds or cleaning supplies. He asked about the Bronx, about my family, about my dreams. "I want to be a nurse," I confessed, feeling my cheeks heat up. "I'm good at taking care of people, but tuition is crazy, and time is tight." "You'd be an incredible nurse," he said, looking at me with an intensity that made my stomach do flip-flops. "You have the gift, the way you handle my mother. You can't learn that in a textbook." The tension grew like vines over the stone walls outside. Glances that lingered a second too long. Accidental touches when passing a cup of tea. Shared laughs over Evelyn's sassy comments. Evelyn naturally missed nothing. "Are you two blind or just cowards?" she snapped one morning. "What do you mean, Evelyn?" "My son. You. The chemistry is setting off the smoke detectors. Evelyn. He's the boss. I'm the help. He lives in Greenwich. I take the train back to the Bronx. It's impossible. Love doesn't give a damn about zip codes, honey. He's a lonely man who found a real woman. And you deserve to be looked at like the queen you are." Crossing the line one night, Julian asked me to stay late to go over some household expense reports. When I finished, he asked me to join him in the living room. There were no papers, just 2 glasses of red wine and jazz playing softly on the stereo. "Sit, please." His voice was shaky. I sat on the edge of the Italian leather sofa, feeling small. "Did I mess something up, sir?" "Yes, and no." He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Elena, you've been here 4 months. In that time, you've changed the molecular, structure of this house. Not because it's cleaner, though it's spotless, but because there's warmth. My mother is happy. And He stood up and walked over, breaking the professional distance. "I am too. For the first time in years, I don't dread coming downstairs. I invent excuses to get coffee just to see you." My heart was hammering against my ribs. "Julian," I said, dropping the mister. "I know it's inappropriate. I know the power dynamic is complicated. I know people will say we're from different planets. That you're from the city and I'm from this." He gestured vaguely at the luxury around us. "But I can't pretend you're just an employee anymore. You've become essential." Tears stung my eyes. Fear and hope mixing together. "I feel it too. But I'm scared. Scared I won't fit in your world. Scared you'll be embarrassed by me. Embarrassed." He gently tilted my chin up. "You are the most dignified, strong woman I have ever met. You are everything I was missing." When he kissed me, the outside world dissolved. No mansion, no Bronx, no debts, no millions. Just a man and a woman finding each other in the dark. It was a tender kiss, a promise. "So, what now?" I asked, resting my forehead against his. "Now? We stop being afraid. Let the world think what it wants. From down the hall, Evelyn yelled out, "Finally! I was about to come out there and push your heads together." We burst out laughing. In that moment, the mansion stopped feeling like a cold museum and felt, for the first time, like a home. The fire test. But real life isn't a movie montage. Julian and I started dating, discreetly at first, but eventually we went to restaurants in town, or he'd drive me home, insisting I never take the train again. The whispers started immediately. Julian's extended family, aunts and cousins with names like Bunny and Trip, were horrified. "She's a gold digger," I heard them whisper at a garden party. "She's the maid, Julian. Have some dignity. She's going to embarrass us at the club." The words were like razor blades. At a Thanksgiving dinner Julian insisted I attend. I felt smaller than an atom. They looked at me like I was a specimen in a jar, correcting my grammar, side-eyeing my dress, which I thought was nice but was clearly department store to them. I excused myself and cried in the guest bathroom. Julian walked in, ignoring the fact that he was in the ladies' room. "We're leaving." "They're right, Julian. I don't belong here. I'm from the Fui block, not the boardroom." "Look at me, Elena." He grabbed my shoulders firmly. "They live in golden cages. Their bank accounts are full, but their souls are empty. You taught me that real wealth isn't marble floors or summers in the Hamptons. Wealth is having someone who holds your hand when you can't breathe, who makes soup with love, who loves you for who you are, not what you own. But they will always judge. Let them judge. I choose you. Every single day, I choose you." He walked me out of that party, hand in hand, head held high, right past the gaping mouths of the socialites. That night, back in his office, he handed me a thick envelope. "This isn't a gift. It's an investment in our future. It was enrollment paperwork for the nursing program at NYU. Fully paid." "Julian, I can't. It's not charity. I want you to fly, Elena. And I want to be the one cheering the loudest when you get that degree." I cried like a baby. I realized that what impressed me wasn't the size of his house, but the size of his heart. A heart big enough to see the queen beneath the cleaning uniform. 6 months later, Evelyn sat us down in the sunroom. She was doing much better. The doctors called it a miracle. She called it the Elena effect. "I have one last wish," she announced, dramatic as ever. "Mother, don't start with the dying wishes," Julian groaned. "I want to see my son married before I kick the bucket, and I don't have 10 years to wait." Julian looked at me, smiled a smile that reached his eyes, and right there on the Persian rug, he pulled out a small velvet box he'd been hiding for weeks. No fireworks, no drone show, just the naked truth of two people who had saved each other. "Do you want to marry this workaholic and deal with his dramatic mother forever?" I said yes. Today, a year later, I still live in the mansion. Not as the housekeeper, but as the lady of the house. I finished my first year of nursing school with a 4.0 GPA. Evelyn is currently planning our honeymoon to Italy, even though she's not invited. She thinks she is. Julian has changed. He works less, lives more. We opened the house for charity events for underprivileged kids from the Bronx. On weekends, my loud, chaotic cousins come over to swim in the pool. The sound of reggaeton and laughter bounces off the high stone walls, scaring away the ghosts of loneliness. The size of the house didn't change. It's still huge. But I learned that the problem was never the physical space. The problem was believing I was too small to fill it. True love doesn't measure square footage, zip codes, or hyphenated last names. True love sees the essence. And when two big hearts find each other, there isn't a mansion in the world, not in Greenwich, not anywhere, big enough to contain that kind of light. If this story touched your soul, let me know in the comments where in the world you're reading from. And if you also believe that love is the only wealth worth accumulating, share this with, someone special. Remember, sometimes what seems unreachable is just waiting for you to have the courage to reach out and claim your place.